That's what people believe. And they don't question it. They just say, oh, that's the closest star is 25 trillion miles away. And that is part of what I think we need to do more of is, because I have a buddy that I think is smart. He hadn't been real interested in the flat earth or talking about it, so we haven't really discussed it much. But the other day he was out front, we're having a cigarette, and I just asked him, like, hey, how far is the moon? He's like, what? I don't far? Like, no, how far is it? He's like, I don't know, 1,000,000 miles? Like, all right, how far is the sun? He's like, I don't know, 500 million miles? I mean, things like that just make me go, like, okay, I think sometimes that I forget that I don't think people even know any of it. I mean, do they know that the closest star to it, I mean, you can go outside right now and look at the stars, they're right there. Yet the closest star to us is 25 trillion miles away. 25 trillion. And I think Dirk said it best when he says, do you know how long a trillion seconds is? Because you're like, oh, a trillion seconds, I don't know, 33,000 years. And then 25 trillion miles is the closest star? It's fucking bullshit.
Yeah, and they seem to like telling us that some of the stars are dead, and it's just the light from dead stars. Like, I think they like turning everything into death, into coldness, and into just this absence of life, and that life itself is some type of a blip, just an accident. And that's why I call it nihilistic. I think that heliocentrism brings with it cause for nihilism, and a lot of the so-called philosophers of the 20th century pushed a lot of nihilistic subtext, like life has no meaning, it's all an accident anyway, and human beings are just rotten. They keep pushing that, and I think it's part of the continuation of the concept of original sin. That just by being born, we're all bad. That the human race is bad and needs to be managed. I think they collectively lowered our self-esteem, and I think the way we really wake up from this is we turn that around. And the star thing, the distances involved, it's not even possible to contemplate it, and they put it outside of your range. They put it in an area where you have to defer to experts. Like, oh, you have to be a mystic to
model it.
You can't model it, and you can't communicate it. It's like you need to talk to a shaman or a witch doctor or a priest to talk to God. You need the vicar of Christ. You need a scientist to tell you about the stars because you can't get it. And I think they put it out of your reach on purpose.
Yeah, it's like they say they can measure the parallax of stars and things like, I mean, Polaris is 2.6 quadrillion miles away, which is, 2,600, then 0.00000000000, ridiculous, stupid number. And then they'll talk about the parallax that they see with these two stars. They're like pretending they can measure the change when you couldn't measure the change in, if we moved a tree an inch a mile away from you, you wouldn't be able to even optically see that, but yet you're going to tell me you can see changes in star distances that are 2.6 quadrillion miles. It's all just like you said. So you defer to authority because it's too crazy for you to think about, but somebody must have done it, right? Somebody observed. I see people in comment sections all the time like, oh, you don't know about stellar parallax and we can measure a change. That you never measured shit. Never measured shit. You just have given over that thought to somebody else. Like, here, this person must have measured it because somebody must have. But really, when you start going back, you end up at places like Cavendish's shed for the weight of the Earth. I mean, I still think people think that we've measured the distance to the sun. Nobody's measured the distance to the sun. The way they know the distance to the sun is because they calculated Venus going across it. And then, the whole thing, when you just need to go back and look at how this is all crafted. Nobody's measured the distance to the sun, and nobody's measured the size of Venus or anything. It's all with their calculations, and, well, Venus is going across, and we're talking about in 1700, they're saying somebody observed Venus crossing the sun from two different locations on the Earth that are on completely different ends of the Earth. Now, how did they communicate? So you're talking about somebody who has to use a pendulum clock to calculate when it crossed. Somebody else on the other side of the Earth had to use the same tool. Then they had to get in their little boat and travel for 4 months and then get together and talk. And we're supposed to believe that now? It's ridiculous.
Well, and the word "we" is the key here. When they say "we," like, we landed on the moon in 1969. We won the Super Bowl. It's like, no, you sat on the couch and you drank beer. Or, no, we didn't land on the moon, some people claim they did. They use the word "we," and they make it into a collective achievement. So the moon landing is a source of culture and pride, and it's just vanity. Like I ran into someone at Walmart talking about this. He was like, "Oh, we landed on the moon at 69," and I look at the guy thinking, "No, we didn't. It was done in our name, but no, you didn't. You didn't go to the moon." And yeah, it's all hearsay.
Yeah, and again, even if you're somebody who, I've had somebody come to me, how dare you question moon landings? My grandpa helped build the Saturn V. I'm like, fantastic. I mean, your grandpa could have helped build the muffler on my Ford Focus. It doesn't mean I can claim that I drove to fucking Hawaii. I mean, it's just not, you can't say that. I mean, that'd be like me saying, I drove to Hawaii, and somebody says, no, you didn't. You can't. What? How dare you say, my grandfather worked on the muffler of that car. It's like, no, great. The muffler worked, and Saturn V was built, and yeah, people built it, and they watched it on TV. They saw it go up, and of course, if you spend all that time building something, this is what people need to see: is that they've taken advantage of everybody. They took advantage of your heartstrings. They took advantage of your ingenuity. They said, here, build this craft, and people built it, and they felt real prideful about it, and they saw it on TV go up, and immediately, as soon as it goes up, they're going to be high-fiving their friends, telling their family about it. I helped build that thing. They don't even pay attention that it goes out into the ocean because it's not important to them, and nobody would ever think, did I just build that rocket so that it would go out and get drenched in the ocean? Of course not. It's the same thing with all these scientists that build these satellites right now, is they would never question it because they spent 6 months putting together, which is the most ridiculous looking things ever, these satellites, but they spent 6 months building it, making it mathematically perfect, and everything's all lined up and perfect, and then they see it. They don't actually see it go to space. They see the capsule that supposedly has their little satellite in it. They see it get launched on TV, and they've got all this pride. Who wouldn't be filled with pride? Like, hey, I helped build something that's going up to space, but you can't even question it because you would be questioning your last 6 months. Like, did I really just... It's just something that people can't do, and that's part of the craftiness of the whole thing. And when you realize that it's all mathematical, then it's easy to see that all it would take is one person who's behind the curtain who sends back data that's exactly what you would expect. So I built this rocket, I built this satellite, it's supposed to go up there and get in this orbit, and then what do I get back on my computer screen? I get the exact data I'm expecting. And every once in a while, throw a little curveball at people. Make it wait 10 seconds to where they're like, oh my goodness, my thing's not responding, and then it comes through like, cool, that was close. I thought, okay, good, we're all good again. It's so easy to do. Those people would never question what they're doing. And the person who's at the top or behind the curtain, they can make it whatever they want. They can just keep spitting out these mathematical formulas and tell you exactly where this Juno craft is in orbit of Jupiter. And if you can't go up there and disprove it, what are you going to do?
Oh, it's like an oracle, like the oracle at Delphi. The idea that there is one person who has a special access to information that no one else can, and that person's statements can't be questioned. And right now, our reality is filtered through oracles, through CGI oracles and computer models. And with regards to people saying like there is no secret too big to keep. It doesn't matter that 400,000 people might have worked on the Apollo. It only takes a few people when it's compartmentalized like that.
Oh, and they're excellent at that. I mean, that's been proven already that nobody knows what the left hand's doing, and just be really easy. That's why you have these departments, and hey, you're in charge of building this particular piece, and then you ship it off to the parts department, and you feel like you've done your job. I mean, you're never going to say, well, could I be just building some nonsense thing, and then every other department's building? I mean, it's not even something that human beings can question. And I think that's all done by design. I mean, that's exactly why they have it compartmentalized. That's exactly why they have, Neil deGrasse and Bill Nye as their spokespeople, because when you invested so much, and Bill Nye has gone around and preached to kids, and Neil deGrasse thinks he's smart and runs a planetarium and talks to people on stage, those people are not capable of questioning the entire body of work. It just is impossible. They may hear, hey, you got to go protect this flat earth stuff's getting out. People are talking about the flat earth, and they'll just go and do the best they can at protecting it because they think it's crazy. I think it's easier to have those kind of people than it is to have liars, because liars could slip up. But somebody like Neil deGrasse really can't slip up. I think he believes it 100%. I think he thinks he's smart. He thinks he's better than everyone. He thinks he's got his degree. He's spoken to people his entire life. All his friends are in the industry. So I think that's your best weapon, because the guy just thinks he knows it all and can go around and just feel like hey, I'll just go to this Joe Rogan show, and I'll just go and anytime they tell me to go, hey, Katy Perry mentioned this. Oh yeah, I'll go take care of that. But I think it's even easier if they are not in the know that what they're actually talking about is a lie, because that's when you can't question everything that you've ever done. If you're a liar, then you kind of feel bad the whole time. Maybe you slip up, maybe you say something you're not supposed to. But when you believe it, that's your best weapon.
Yeah, that's true because the conviction of it, and then I think you pointed this out when Neil deGrasse Tyson was asked about the curve of the Earth, and he said, "Huh? The gravity drop?" Like
Right.
he had no idea what he was talking about. I'm like, okay, yeah, it's more than likely that this guy's a useful idiot, and they keep him that way by keeping him
Right.
in a compartment.
Yeah, I think if he was, part of the club and knew that he would have those kind of facts ready. But yeah, when Joe Rogan asked him, he was, he's like, oh, what's the curvature on 1 mile? I don't know. What's the gravity drop? And yeah, he had no idea because that's if you're an astrophysicist, you've never talked about the curvature of the Earth because that is something that is so far menial in your work that you would never even look at that. It's not. I mean, if you're an astrophysicist, you're into that realm of science, so it is obvious that the Earth's a ball. Otherwise, you wouldn't even be anywhere near that study. So I think, yeah, when I heard that, I was like, man, this guy doesn't know shit. And yeah, he gets called. I mean, crazy because as soon as this flat Earth stuff, I mean, he was on Joe Rogan within like 2 days. Same thing with Shaquille, and then going on Herbert's show. It happened within 2 days, and it's like these things. For me, I don't know how much those guys know. I don't know. Seems to me like Shaq maybe said it because he really feels it. I don't know. I know I'm probably in the dark on that one. A lot of people don't have that same opinion. But I think then it was told to him, hey, now you're going to go on the show and you better say that you were lying. And, I think that, Jimmy Kerber said, I think he believes it, that we live on a ball, that it's an outrageous thought that we don't. So he's easily able to call Shaq and say, you were kidding, right? I mean, come on, I can see the curve from, the roof of my house. Those kind of people, I think, are beneficial to them. And that's what the whole world is full of.
You call them true believers. Yeah, like the people who like run Scientology know it's a scam, but they need the true believers a couple of steps down to be the true believers, to be the public face. But yeah, their controllers know exactly.
For a while, I thought, like when I first started dealing with Red Rhetoric, I thought, hey, this guy probably is working inside or knows the truth. And the more I dealt with him, the more I said, no way, this guy is so much more effective because he believes it. And he goes to all their launches. He loves it so much that he goes and films all their launches. I mean, what is more of a useful asset than that? It's somebody that they don't pay, that they don't have to even deal with, they don't have to talk to. That simply because he is so far invested into it. And as soon as you have a channel and you start calling people names and you start saying how right you are, there's no longer a position for you to ever say, oops, I fucked up. This isn't true. It's simply you will go to your deathbed believing it because you put that much invested into it. So, I mean, at this point, I think that he absolutely believes everything. Every launch he goes to, he thinks that's real. He thinks what's happening is absolutely, even though he's never seen anything go to space, he sees the rocket go up, and then they flip scenes to that stupid scene of the rocket end in space, and he has no reason to question that there's no way all that he's ever seen is a hoax. And I think those people are the most beneficial to them. I could be wrong. All these people could be just lying, but when I look at it and I see how much some of them seem like they believe it, it seems to me like those people are so much more beneficial than if you have somebody whose goal is to go out and deceive you. I feel like those people, make mistakes. It's the people who actually believe in things that are, the most beneficial or the most, important to their whole movement.
Yeah.
You got to have people that buy into it fully.
That was what Lenin, they've been called useful idiots and stooges by the communists for years because the ones on the ground marching in the streets, they are doing the dirty work for the oligarchs, and they don't even know it. And they're the true believers. Like I had a Marxist professor who bragged about how her car was so broken down because she was so against capitalism that she was happy with her cheap car. And it's like, meanwhile, the people who advance Marxism are all these rich oligarchs who have nothing but contempt for the poor. And meanwhile, at the bottom, they're told to glorify the poor as a class, and it's just, yeah, they're true believers.
Yeah, I
There's
think
rhetoric.
to be